Well, happy Tuesday, everyone. Josh's severe weather, and we've got yet another winter storm aimed at the south. This one farther south than the last one we had over the weekend. And it's going to put a lot of you in its crosshairs from Texas to the mid-Atlantic region. Even parts of the deep south will be dealing with snow, freezing rain, icy conditions, and heavy rain along the Gulf Coast. This video is going to break pretty much that down here, as there isn't much else to talk about. It's cold out there this afternoon, that is for sure. As of this recording, getting ready to get dark out, and we have temperatures in the single digits across the Dakotas, into the teens across Nebraska, even where the snow is on the ground. We are dealing with temperatures here in the teens and low 20s across Kansas and Missouri. Just a nasty afternoon, and the wind makes it feel a lot worse here. Strong winds out of the northwest, pounding those of us here in the northeast, making it feel like the coldest air that we've had here so far this winter season. Here's a look at what we're going to be dealing with over the next few days. Winter storm gathering strength here beginning tomorrow night in the southwest and continuing into the deep south, into Texas, into the southern plains here over the second half of this week, and eventually to the eastern seaboard by the beginning of the weekend. That is going to bring a wintry mix, and in some places some very significant snowfall as well, shutting down roadways and causing potential power outages with it. Now, right now, we do have a winter storm watch that has been posted for all of North Texas, basically back to just east of Abilene, I believe, through the DFW area, northeast Texas, southeastern Oklahoma, the majority of Arkansas, far northern Louisiana, northern Mississippi, and all of western Tennessee. And over time, I expect that this is going to be expanded farther to the east. We also have winter weather advisories for southwest Texas, for southern New Mexico, and for portions of Colorado. Freeze warning for far southeastern Louisiana as well. And this comes on the heels of a storm that still has people without power in parts of Virginia, West Virginia, Kentucky, and Missouri, albeit the number of customers without power has diminished significantly. We also have power outages in California, and there's a big wind event going on here over the next couple of days that I'll also talk about for you here. You can see right now the storm that we are talking about here is beginning to move southeastward all the way into northwestern Mexico, rounding the base of a very big trough here. And on the southern end of this trough, we have strong flow out of the west-southwest, bringing moisture in from the Pacific. There's also going to be moisture coming in off the Gulf of Mexico, but cold air spilling in through this trough. So this moisture at the mid and upper levels of the atmosphere is going to ride up and over the colder air mass. And as a result, we have that winter weather that's going to be impacting a good chunk of the country here over the second portion of this week. Take a look here at the NAM model in the east first, and then we're going to talk about that storm in just a minute. And where it is cold, we do have instability snow falling. In fact, let me move that to the latest model here for you. And you can see that we still have snow falling with bands of lake effect coming across Lakes Michigan, Lakes Huron, Lake Erie, Lake Ontario, and instability snow all the way down into the Western Carolinas. That's going to continue into tomorrow. And then eventually on Thursday, it should begin to wrap up. But parts of northern New England and eastern Canada will continue to have snow showers here. In some places, that snow could be pretty heavy. Now, here's our next storm system beginning to gather some strength over Texas here early in the day on Thursday. You see the pink on the map. That indicates freezing rain, and the sleet indicates, I should say the purple indicates sleet, and blue indicates snow here. I think I've shared that with you all many times, but if you're just joining me for the first time, wanted to make that pretty clear. The low pressure system with this system is going to form in the Western Gulf Thursday night. And that is going to send moisture northward into that colder air mass, all the way up into Oklahoma and even into southern Missouri. The Ozarks region here will get snow. And while the storm certainly is going to be a big one for the south, it's not going to be as big as the one we had this past weekend. And as we look at the map here, you can see that it kind of gets split off from this weaker system moving from the Dakotas into Minnesota and Ontario. I do want to show you here a look at wind speeds in the eastern part of the country, because this is significant. It's going to create some really nasty wind chill. If you look at wind speeds tonight and tomorrow, they don't go down any. In fact, they're still cranking over 100 miles per hour on Mount Washington, but even like the 40s and 50s across the mountains of New England and upstate New York. And at the coast, it's pretty windy as well. We have gusts that are in the 35 to 40 mile per hour range. So not only is it cold out there, but it sure is windy. And This unfortunate part of this is that we don't just get a quick break from the wind. It continues to blow and blow and blow right on into Thursday and maybe even into Friday for the coastal sections here of the Northeast. With that, we also have cold temperatures in place. And you can see here nighttime lows tonight are going to get down into the single digits for many in the Northeast, teens down to the coast, and 20s across southern Virginia. I do want to take you farther off to the south so that you can see what's going on in the southeast tonight because it is significant. We are going to see low temperatures tonight that will be down into the teens in western North Carolina, 20s in much of the deep south, 30s along the Gulf Coast. And take a look at Florida here, just north of Tampa Bay. We're talking upper 30s. South of Tampa Bay, mid 40s, and down all the way into the 50s across southeast Florida and the Florida Keys. That is tonight. It actually gets colder tomorrow night, as you can see here in just a moment, all the way down to about 40 degrees in Tampa Bay and 37 in Orlando. Now, it is going to warm up as our storm approaches from the west here, but more cold is coming as we move on into the following weeks ahead. Looking at Texas here, you can see the cold air is already in place. It stays cold tomorrow, although we are going to get up to about 40 or 42 in DFW, 43 in Houston, but that is cold for Texas standards for sure. And obviously in Oklahoma, you're colder. As we look at Thursday, when our storm is moving in, temperatures initially are going to be a bit above freezing, but when the precipitation hits, the air is going to cool. There'll be what's called evaporative cooling, where precipitation takes the air and cools it down to the wet bulb temperature. And as that happens, temperatures go down below freezing. And by the nighttime hours, much of this portion of Texas will be at or below freezing. It's going to take a little longer in the populated areas, but it is going to get there during the day Friday. So the snow that falls will be falling pretty heavily, and it won't take too long for it to stick at night. You can see here with that low pressure system, there are temperatures well into the 70s in the Western Gulf and not far from the coast in the 60s, but you go on shore and it drops significantly to 52 in Galveston, 44 in Brazoria, and 37 in Houston. So a cold rain is coming for the Gulf Coast region here by the end of the week. I do want to talk about California because we are experiencing some very dangerous low fuels here, and wind gusts are going to get up into the 50s here, even in downtown LA this evening, 40s in the Inland Empire. But we go up into the mountains, we are going to see wind gusts of hurricane force right through the Grapevine here. Significant winds farther inland as well. And even around Malibu and Oxnard, wind gusts may get up to about 64 miles per hour. That'll be while many are sleeping in SoCal. But tomorrow, the winds stay pretty strong in the morning. They do relax somewhat. And by the time we get to Thursday, they do pick back up. So with all this cold that's coming down east of the Sierra Nevada into the central parts of the country, and with the offshore flow, we have a strong Santa Ana setting up. So as a result, fire conditions are critical today, but they get worse for tomorrow, especially in the morning. Once you get north of LA and towards Burbank, Santa Clarita, and the Topanga Canyon and on northward here, basically through the I-5 corridor, but they're critical as well across the rest of the LA basin and elevated around the city itself. The beaches won't have strong fire conditions, but you could see smoke or you could have air pollution due to whatever does in fact form here. And it stays bad into Thursday, although we are going to see a little bit of gradual relief. But overnight tonight and tomorrow, we are going to see significant wind in Southern Cal. Here's a look at our storm system. You can see it in the southwest here. This is tomorrow night. This is Thursday, and this trough is going to lift out to the north and east. Now, there is an upper level low as well over the Great Lakes that I need to show you here. And a couple of days ago, and even yesterday, the GFS was taking this system and this system down here and phasing the two into a big system off the East Coast. Well, those of you that want to see big snowfall in New England and the Northeast will be a little bit disappointed that the phasing is no longer expected to happen. And that doesn't surprise me because I talked about how the GFS was a significant outlier yesterday. So the big East Coast storm at this point is looking super unlikely, but it doesn't mean you're going to escape the snow. You could see this possibility of seeing an inch or more of snow. Obviously, it's high here across the Maritimes and across northern parts of the Northeast and the Rockies. But take a look at where it starts picking up here Thursday night into Friday. very high chance that we're going to see accumulating snow from North Texas up in the western PA, southern and eastern Ohio, West Virginia, and a significant chance as well for portions of the southeast through Saturday morning and all the way to the East Coast through Sunday morning. I do want to zoom in to show you all here these states here. We'll start with Texas, and you can see a 90% or greater chance of accumulating snow over an inch, both in southwest Texas, southern New Mexico, and in northeastern parts of Texas, and also southeastern Oklahoma. Taking a look here at the southeast, you can see where the bullseye for the snow is likely to happen. Now, this doesn't tell you how much is going to fall, but it tells you where it's likely to happen. And you can see Arkansas, northern Mississippi, and even a possibility down to Shreveport, Monroe, Bastrop, Louisiana, near Jackson and Meridian, Mississippi, near into the south of Birmingham. Atlanta area has a possibility, but you can see how quickly that gradient tails down or tails off. See, the orange indicates a likely chance on the north side of Atlanta, but the purple indicates a very slim chance. So when you get closer to the East Coast here in South Carolina and North Carolina in particular, those chances dwindle as the Atlantic influences this storm system and it comes up more to the north. You don't have a chance in Florida. You probably don't have a chance on the Gulf Coast at this point of anything but cold rain and maybe even some lightning and thunder to make it a little bit more exciting. Looking here at the Northeast, again, this is not going to be your storm. I know the GFS teased us the last couple of days, but chances right now are 30% to 40% in southern New England, about 50-50 around New York and Philly, and then those chances come up west of Philly and, of course, for Maryland and the Mid-Atlantic. So same place that got it the other day is going to likely see it again here by the weekend. Here are the key messages from the Weather Prediction Center. Chance for that moderate impact for winter weather is pretty significant from North Texas into western Tennessee. I think they meant to say dominant here, unless they're Reed Timmer people and they want to dominate, but bad joke there. But expecting snow in blue and expecting ice in red, freezing rain and sleet. There'll be probably multiple types of precipitation as the storm evolves, but this is what the general issues are going to be here. And you can see that ice chance goes all the way down to about Austin, Round Rock, Georgetown, Texas, Caldwell, Texas, and all the way to just north of College Station and to the Piney Woods region of Texas here. So pretty significant system here. This area does not get a lot of snow, as you already know. So this will be pretty significant. Now we're going to take a look at models individually, and I'm going to make this pretty quick for you all here. The new GFS is trickling in. We're not ready to run that one, at least for this video. We'll look at it later. Here you can see Thursday afternoon, kind of a sloppy mess in North Texas. And then things get more intense here at about midnight Thursday night around Dallas and around even OKC and over to Fayetteville, Arkansas. Heavier rates of snow falling before daybreak on Friday. Heavy rain for the Gulf Coast region. And then you can see it is going to move away pretty quickly. So about a 24 or so hour storm for most of you here before this moves away. Here's a look at the European. Let me get the latest one loaded for you all. I don't think it's much different. You can see here pink indicating a wintry mix here south and west of DFW here Thursday morning. It starts as rain in Dallas and certainly points south, but as I mentioned, the evaporative cooling brings us back to snow here. You can see a heavier band of snow beginning to set up here. So Dallas is right about here, DFW. I know some of you probably don't live at the airport, but if you're in Coppell, it's pretty close. But you can see this little area here that moves out to the north and east. This is a deformation zone of heavier snow. And this is going to build eastward here as the night wears on Thursday night. And look at how much heavier it could be by Friday morning here north of Shreveport, Texarkana, into maybe even places like Hot Springs and Pine Bluff, and even northern Mississippi and northern Alabama here. So the system is going to wrap up in Texas early on Friday. It'll wrap up in Louisiana Friday afternoon, and it'll wrap up in Mississippi Friday night. And we'll have cold but quiet weather as we get to next weekend. The Canadian model is a little bit colder. You will see here as we back it up, less green and more pink. It may end up being too cold, but you can see here that this is a significant icing event here. And as things move on Friday morning, a very nasty storm over Arkansas, the Arklatex, and northern Louisiana, northern and central Mississippi and Alabama early on Friday, and then moving into Georgia Friday afternoon. And then everything moves out as well. By the way, significant snow in the mountains here behind this system right through the weekend. The ski areas will do great in Utah and Wyoming and Colorado. Here's the NAM model, which is now trickling in. The NAM from earlier today said no storm for Dallas. It had rain and then it dried it out, but it's going back to the other models. So I think it had a bad run, but you can see it's got the snow, it's got the heavy rain on the Gulf Coast here, and everything is moving along at about the same pace here. So the good news is that our forecast is looking a lot more confident today as models are pretty much agreeing on what's going to happen. Here's a look at how much snow may fall. This is the GFS showing a few inches from Denver southward. Then it picks up in the Mexican mountains, and then we see things breaking out during the day on Thursday in northeast Texas and in much of Oklahoma, and eventually that snow area shifts south. Now, the GFS is not as excited about DFW as the other models. It's a lot more excited across Arkansas and Mississippi, and I could show that to you here in just a second. You can see amounts here. I know Oklahoma is a little off the map, but as much as 10 inches of accumulating snow here from eastern Oklahoma and western Arkansas right through northern Mississippi, northwest Alabama, that includes Muscle Shoals, over to Chattanooga, Tennessee, Knoxville, western North Carolina, Nantahala, Cherokee, Murphy, Franklin, Cullowhee, which doesn't get a whole lot of snow, and maybe Asheville. This could be your biggest one here in a while. But the challenging part about this forecast is going to be how far south the snow is going to accumulate. You can see there's a very fine line between what's happening in northeast Mississippi and then what's happening when you get to places like Starkville and Columbus and then farther south. So that is going to be the tricky part here, and that's what we're going to be watching for you here. Here's the European model. Not a lot different, except it's got more in North Texas than the GFS. It also has higher amounts in the bullseye here in Arkansas, as much as 14 inches. And if we take a look closer here, you can see that the European is more bullish here in Arkansas, but less bullish in northeast Alabama, North Georgia, East Tennessee. So it kind of loses things as it comes eastward here Friday night and Saturday morning. It doesn't mean it won't snow. It just means there's less expected than what that model shows. Here's a Canadian model, and this is the one that's the most bullish. It's colder. It's probably overdone, to be honest with you, but it's got a major area getting a foot or more of snow. I think that's kind of the worst case scenario, or best case if you like snow. But amounts of this high I don't think are going to happen. But I do like the area that it has pictured for the heaviest of snow. If you look at the deep south, you can see once we get into middle Tennessee and on eastward, things do fade as well, just like they did on the European. Here's a look at the NAM model real quick. And this was the 12Z. It just gypped the Dallas-Fort Worth area. The 18Z brought it back, just like the other models. So ignore the 12Z. And you can see it's pretty much in line with what the other models are showing here. Although lesser amounts because it runs out here Friday at 7 o'clock Eastern. We also have to worry about some sleet here. Here's the European model. We're not talking major sleet, but there will be some sleet, especially in Arkansas and North Texas here. This is through Friday. Here is what the GFS is showing as far as sleet here. This is the latest run, not as much. Here is a look at the European for freezing rain. And you can see there will be ice challenges here to deal with, even in Midland, Odessa, but areas to your east, across parts of the heart of Texas, into Arkansas as well, and into Mississippi. That's the European. Here's a look at the GFS. This is the freezing rain. This is the latest model. And you can see less in this area of Texas, more across southern Arkansas. Now, we're going to shift east. I don't want to ignore you in the southeast or the mid-Atlantic. I just had to talk about the southern plains first. And here you can see the GFS bringing our heavy rain eastward here. This is Friday morning. And you can see here, it does start this out as snow in Birmingham, Atlanta, and maybe even close to Columbus, Georgia, and Auburn and Opelika in Alabama. It's got snow at the onset as well to, not Savannah, but Augusta, in places like even Columbia and up to Charlotte. So it will snow as this moves into the colder air mass. But what happens is as the afternoon and evening wear on, and that warmer layer aloft gets in there, that snow shuts off quickly, and we transition to sleet. That's the purple, and then freezing rain, that's the pink, and eventually plain rain, which I hate saying. Rain is rain. It just won't freeze at this point by late Friday night, Saturday morning. Now, the GFS tracks the low basically through eastern North Carolina, which shuts down our snow totals quite a bit from the triangle on south and east here. It's got a little at the onset, but it cuts us down quite a bit and goes to rain. You will see the storm does begin to intensify as it leaves the coast, but unlike yesterday, not a big storm for the Northeast. And I will show you those totals in a little bit. And it's moving out quickly as well. So other than mountain snow Saturday afternoon, it is dry by Saturday afternoon and a lot colder by the weekend. Here's the European model, and a little bit more rain than ice in Mississippi, but still quite a bit of snow at the onset here. you'll see it's not quite as cold as the GFS this go around, but it doesn't bring the low quite as far north, so it actually has ice a little bit farther south and east, including the Triangle, Fayetteville, and Southern Pines, as well as possibly the Hampton Roads area of Virginia. But it's moving it out of here quickly, and by Saturday at 11 a.m., the storm is basically wrapped up. It is not going to do as much as the GFS for the Jersey Shore, though. It pretty much just escapes to your south and east. Here's a Canadian model, and as I'd mentioned before, it's colder. It's got a more significant layer of ice here over northern and central Mississippi, Alabama, into Georgia. It doesn't have much snow in Atlanta. It's got it starting as sleet and then going to freezing rain and then eventually just a cold rain falling on the I-20 corridor. But this would be a more significant icing event for parts of the Midlands of South Carolina and eastern Georgia and the Piedmont and even the coastal plain of North Carolina. And this is with the low tracking along the inner part of the coastline here. It's just colder, but it is going to move out here pretty quickly on Saturday. So GFS and European more in agreement here for the most part. Canadian is colder, but overall the models are coming into agreement. I think we're going to have more confidence by tomorrow. Here's a GFS model for total amount of snow, and you can see it's got quite a bit, even extending into Virginia. If we look here at the Carolinas for you all to be able to get a closer view, it's got 4 inches in Atlanta. It's got over 5 in parts of Spartanburg and Pickens and Oconee counties here in South Carolina, and then over 8 inches here in the Smoky Range. It's got over a foot in parts of West Virginia. It's got 6 inches in southern Maryland, the southern Delmarva. So the GFS is now calling for a decent storm here. And if I take it to the mid-Atlantic, it will also bring snow up into parts of Pennsylvania. Philly and New York City, it's showing a few inches of snow. So nothing like what I showed you yesterday, that tantalizingly big storm, but it is trending northward, and the other models are as well. Here's a look at the European. Here's a look at where our snow forecast takes the snow. And it's got a lot less in Virginia and in Maryland. It basically shuts things down quite a bit Saturday morning as things move east of the Appalachians. But still a significant storm. I mean, it hasn't snowed here in Raleigh, where I live, in 3 winters. And it's at least showing at least there's a chance at this point, albeit it's not a chance that gets me super excited because I'm on the line here between 1/2 inch and nothing. Southern Virginia to the south side, Lake Gaston area could see a couple of inches, DC area a couple inches, but this is quite a bit less than what that GFS showed you here. And farther north and east, again, there's some chance in eastern PA, the Delaware Valley, and the southern New England, but it's not a big amount of snow. This is not really your storm. Finally, the Canadian model, it is showing a little bit better band of snow along the North Carolina-Virginia border. That could include the Richmond area, but it does shut things off quite a bit over northern Virginia and across the rest of the Northeast. And you can see that a little bit more closely here. Pretty good snow around Greensboro, Mount Airy, Boone, 5, 6, 7 inches on the Canadian, even 3 to 4 around Richmond, even towards the peninsula, 4 inches around William and Mary here, Williamsburg and Jamestown, but quite a bit less when you get up to DC, which is probably okay with some of you that got all that snow the other day. Finally, we're going to take a look at frozen precipitation, sleet and freezing rain. And there will be some sleet mixed in with the snow here that could cut totals down just a little bit. That's the GFS. Here's the European. It's a lot less. Again, the moisture starts to fade as it moves east. And here's the Canadian, which is a little more significant, especially in Arkansas, but also in upstate South Carolina and in western North Carolina as well. I think the Canadian's overdone, just to be honest with y'all. Here's the freezing rain potential, and this could be a significant icing event from eastern Alabama into southern Virginia, including Greensboro and Charlotte, and Greenville, Spartanburg, and maybe even Columbia and those areas, West Augusta or East Augusta and Augusta. So we need to be watching that fairly closely here. Here's the European, which does not have amounts nearly as high, but it does have an area of ice around the Triangle into eastern North Carolina and down to places like Lumberton and Laurinburg. And finally, the Canadian model, again, remember, it's colder. I think this is overdone, but does indicate we're going to have a freezing rain threat all the way into central Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi, and pretty close to the coast here of North Carolina and southern Virginia. So we're going to look more at it tomorrow. Again, I think the Canadian's an outlier here. The GFS no longer shows our big northeast storm, but things are coming into pretty good agreement in much of the deep south here. And We like that agreement, of course, but this will be a substantial storm system. I pray that everybody has a safe night. I appreciate you all joining me today. And if you have not subscribed, I encourage you to do so. I also want to lift you up in encouragement. I am a Christian. I am a meteorologist and a dad and a hard worker, but first and foremost, I'm a follower of Christ, and I am not ashamed of that. And I just want to share a passage with you all that I think is very important today. Ephesians 2:8-10, for by grace ye are ye saved through faith, and that not of yourselves. It is the gift of God, not of works, lest any man should boast. For we are his workmanship, created in Christ Jesus unto good works, which God hath before ordained that we should walk in them. And it's very simple here. Those who have made that choice to follow God and to follow Christ are saved. That salvation is coming. It is a gift. It is not something that you can earn. It is something that Christ has given to you by his death and resurrection. And that is the good news I wanted to share with you here this evening. I pray that everybody stays safe and warm, and I expect to be back tomorrow. Have a blessed night. See ya.